Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for being with us for our latest grid event. I'm a real estate nerd. I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about. We're talking about math tonight. So one of the things that's important for our life is to figure out how do we make an offer? Do we know that we have a deal? And what we're going to talk about is max allowable offer. And it's a little formula that, if done right, will earn you millions of dollars over your lifetime, but it's important to understand value. And we actually got lucky. We have an appraiser in the audience, so if you hear him shout out BS, he's calling my BS here, but we're going to talk about understanding value and how to analyze a deal in your market. And important legal stuff. So we are, though we are real estate investors, we are not. We are not accountants, we're not attorneys, none of that stuff. So if we share things with you, please take those ideas and bump them against the people that have a license to practice in those particular areas. We always go through leader intros. My name is Josh Wally. I'm an associate real estate broker for Douglas Elliman Real Estate, and my partner here is Sean Morrison.
How you doing? Sean Morrison, owner of Benchmark Construction Management and Eastern Expediting, and local real estate investor here.
And so people ask us, why do we run this group? So really, we're real estate nerds, and we want to spend more time with people that love real estate the same way we do, that want to invest. So we want to do deals with folks, and we also want to learn what everybody else in the industry is doing. So what is Grid? Grid is a global real estate community built by investors and for investors. So we're not gurus. We're spitting something that is conceptual in nature. We're actually real estate investors. We're out there doing deals, winning more than we lose, learning along the way, and we're just sharing everything that we know with you. And our mission is to connect with, learn from, and collaborate with like-minded individuals all across the country to build relationships. So Grid has 40 Grid communities with 30,000 members, and we've generated $100 million in business over the last 10 years. It's been the greatest financial vehicle in my life, and we're happy to have you with us. And so we'll start right off. A couple different spots where people, investors will find value. Crazy enough. Multiple listing service is a big one. If you have a realtor friend, that's where we're going to really jump right in and find most of our values. Is multiple listing service is, for non-realtors, is the service that on which realtors put their properties to syndicate out to Zillow, Truly a Realtor, things of that nature, and we record our sales. So it gives us a little history. Appraisers will use that as validation for values too. Crazy enough, I see some investors using Zillow. So you'll notice that sweet emoji right there. Don't try it. Zillow did it. They launched an iBuyer system using their Zillow Zestimate as a value. They lost billions, so don't do that. There's also a lot of technologies out there. You can sign up for subscriptions for automated valuation models. So when you're looking at a property, you can plug in that address and get a reasonable, I want to say a reasonably accurate value. Will be tougher a little bit. I see my appraiser here is looking right through the back of my head. How dare you? You'll get a reasonable value. Rural spots are a little bit tough. So out here where we are on the North Fork, they'll have a confidence score, right? That's associated with that automated valuation model. And you'll see out here the confidence scores are a little bit lower because there aren't as many sales per area. And then also, if you want a good, solid value for your property, I do recommend that you hire an appraiser. So there's different levels of appraisers that you can do. You can do drive-by analysis, they can do desktop appraisals, or full interior appraisals that come in. And they can also help you, a good appraiser will help you find the pulse of that particular market. They're out there every single day, and they know what's happening. So
if you're new in investing, you should definitely be hiring an appraiser to get better knowledge as to what, each area, so you understand your model much better.
That's right. So
smart money.
Yeah, I fully agree. So yeah, important to know your numbers. Remember, we make our money when we buy, right? So you can't renovate your way out of a bad deal. And for a couple of years, the market was really just saving us. We could be a little bit more aggressive with our purchases, but the market has begun to stabilize. It still feels strong, depending on where you are in the price point. But you're probably one of your best friendships. Make friends with an appraiser for sure. So important, here is the your max allowable offer formula. Super important. So one of the most important acronyms that you're ever going to hear, you'll hear a lot, is ARV, right? So you'll hear MAO, max allowable offer, ARV, after repair value. Super important to really know a solid after repair value, and then how long is it going to take you to get there, so you can factor in holding costs. But being able to determine a good after repair value of your property is really one of the most important skills, I think, secondarily to estimating your construction costs appropriately. So many investors, we use this 70% rule. So we have a first world problem, Sean and I, is that we get folks send us deals fairly often. And so if we don't always have the time or the input to go through the funds to hire an appraiser, wait 5 days, get a value, and then make an offer. You got to try to understand a real quick quick formula to run these properties through to whether you know you have a deal or not. Because most of them I can talk through over the phone, and I know we don't have a deal. So whenever I'm looking at a property, I'm looking at after repair value times 70% minus my repair costs. So I'm paying 75% of after repair value minus my construction cost. So I have my square foot construction cost that I use. I usually ask, what is the condition of that property? Is it habitable? Is it moderate? Is it fully renovated? That'll give me my renovation costs and my after repair value based on my appraisal. So really important to understand the components of value when you're looking at a property. So I always teach that there's 5 major components of value. Tell me if I'm right or wrong, Pat. So I say components of value: location, utility, condition, size, and appeal. I think here's a one-liner that I use all the time is I can change anything about a house except for where it is. Location is your biggest driver. So if you have a locational influence like busy street, commercial influences, taxes, super important. Also, location will play into, for us realtors, the hot button, which is school district. We're not allowed to talk about it, but location is by far the biggest driver of value for sure. Utility, I always think bedroom and bath counts. But how many people can asleep? So we're looking at, as far as value, I always look at Johnny Homebuyer. So how many Johnny Homebuyers out of 100 will be interested in purchasing the property that I have for sale? Well, if I have a 1-bedroom home, it's a very, very small amount of people, right? There's a little bit more for a 2-bedroom. Biggest jump is 3-bedroom. And then the really demand kind of plateaus around 4 and diminishes above that. Am I right? Right? 4 to 5 is like your max, right? So in all my years of real estate, I've never had anybody go, Josh, I need you to find me a 7-bedroom home today. It just doesn't happen. It's usually 3-bedroom. The other part is condition is a big driver, right? So we're usually, when we're looking to buy something, generally people talk about investing is really improving the condition of the property and driving value there. So important to know your condition, get photos if you can't get inside it, but important. And then also size, right? So sometimes people just think bigger house is worth more money, but there is another spot, especially in the appraisal world, and we call it the point of diminishing returns. That's right, over improvement. So at a certain point, like all the homes in the area are 2,000 square feet, and you build a 5,000 square foot house in that neighborhood, you're not going to get a lot of value over that 2,000. So there's a point of diminishing returns. And then appeal. So Sean and I were just valuing another property recently, and this came in. So appeal is like the style of the type of home. It could be attached or also style, contemporary, high ranch. So I always joke, here's another one-liner, is everybody loves a well-done ranch, right? Like very rarely have I had folks that don't like ranch-style homes, but we were in a contemporary not too long ago, and we're looking at value when you really go to your appraiser. Generally, older contemporaries, we call it like 80s styles or even early 90s, those don't sell for as much money as a good, well done, like hip roof ranch. There's just less desired by it. So when you're looking at purchasing a property, you got to take into account all the components of value. So, so when we're out there looking, or we find this property, somebody calls me a deal. Josh, I got a deal. How am I going to figure that out? Right away, I'm going to go to my multiple listing service, or you can even go, you can use Zillow, or Redfin has good data as well. And I'm looking for homes that have these 4 different components. I want to stay similar size house, right? Size, location, condition, utility, appeal. I want to stay same size house best I can, same neighborhood for sure, certainly same school district, and sold as close to today as I possibly can. So this market since COVID has been all over the place, and it ebbs and flows, and there's a lot of different influences at the moment. So there's two pieces I look at. Sold homes tell me what just happened in the market. Under contract tells me what's actually happening today, right? And then new listings tell me where's the future of that market going. So time is really important. Similar styles, right? So here's 2 little tiny ranch style homes, right? These are cute. You want to kind of look at it when I'm looking for comparable sales. If a person has the same amount of money in the same neighborhood, would they look at both of these 2 properties? Like if I was going to take them on showings to sell them a property, would I include both of these properties in my sale? So we're looking at similar house, same architecture, same level, which is utility. Another big part is out here on the North Fork is waterfront, water view, right? All these different, and then you can even get deep into their subcomponents of water: bayfront, pondfront, creekfront, deep water canal, right? Shallow canal. Is it in front of a bridge? Is it behind a bridge? All these different things play into the components of value. So that's super important. If you have a unique property, definitely call in an appraiser. But try to stay same, cookie cutter as best you can. I always like to say, think Levittown capes, right? It's a cape, all on the same street. So as similar as you can possibly get at. Same neighborhood. So here is another saying, the wrong side of the tracks. We used to say that a long time. What that saying was really talking about is a socioeconomic boundary, really a geographic boundary. So when I'm looking at a particular property, I try to stay in that neighborhood as I possibly can. And as appraisers as well, if like in the review, you can't. Expressway. That's right. Like you got to think, if the property that you're analyzing, let's just say, is south of 495, right, the expressway, your comparable should be on the same side of that big street, because usually there's going to be a neighborhood change and a value change by going on the other side of it. So pick the same neighborhood as best you possibly can. Got to say it. So school district is a big driver, though as realtors we're not allowed to weigh in on it. It is still a big hot button for.
I didn't know that.
For a buyer. We're not allowed to talk about that. No.
About schools?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it.
Go to greatschools.org, or I recommend, I have to recommend that they go to the superintendent for that school district, and generally the school will have they'll have statistics, graduation rates and things like that, but nope, I'm not allowed to weigh in on that whatsoever. But I'm sorry, it's a giant driver, right?
Is it still on Zillow the way it used to be, or did they take that off of there?
I don't know. I don't look at it. I'll be honest. You caught me. Is it still on there? Okay, yeah. I mean, I would assume so, because that's how people buy. We're just.
When I bought, I looked at what that was, ratings and all that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's important to folks. So, if it's important to them when they're buying, it's important to me when I'm buying and when I'm selling, right? I want to know about those pieces. So, also, I'm giving away all my one-liners here, but whenever you sell a house and there's a mortgage, we don't just sell it once, right? We got to sell it to the buyer, right? Then we got to sell it to the inspector. Then we got to sell it to the appraiser, right? Then I got to sell it to the underwriter. There's a lot of different stuff. And when the appraiser is looking at our contract that we have to validate that purchase price, they're looking at school district, right? So that's an important one to know. And recently sold. So I would say, yeah, fresher is better. closer to today as you possibly can. So, there is no like perfect window. How far do you go back? Appraisers, right? Your max is 180 days right now.
Yeah,
generally.
You have to go back sometimes a year, and sometimes even to bracket certain things, sometimes you back 2-3 years.
Okay.
Something unique.
That's right. So time is really important, but I would say I would go further back in time to stay more local.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's a big piece. But especially when the market is changing, the more recent sales you possibly can find are going to give you a good reflection. Remember, when it finally gets recorded, like that sale, there's a 60-day deal cycle time here on Long Island. So a sale that closes today is really reminiscent, generally, of a market of 2 months ago. And this market's been changing nonstop. It's been going up and down as fast as we can get a beat on it. So, yep, here it is. Comps tell us what happened in the past, but one of the most important aspects of the process is trying to see the future. So, of course, we can't predict the future, but we can pay attention to external factors that could affect our outcomes when we're selling. So, we have, Long Island is getting hammered on all 4 of these things right now. So, supply, we've been undersupplied since 2019. We've been in short supply. Seasonality, last year, 2023, when I pulled the data, was really the first year that seasonality really came back in full bore for the North Fork. Which
you're talking about sales in real estate when you say seasonality.
That's right. At what point in the year?
Yeah,
that's right.
I just don't know that everyone understood.
That's a good point. Yeah. So seasonality is like when do properties sell? So in COVID, it was 12 months a year. It was chaos nonstop. But crazy enough, here on the North Fork, which is counterintuitive, like March, April, May, and then September, October, November. That's when the bulk of your 70% of your sales will happen during that time frame. So when we're purchasing something, it's important to look, when is your exit strategy going to be? Do you want to launch December 15th, or maybe it makes sense to hold back a little bit? So growth and development, that's a big one to really pay attention to. Is it a opportunity zone, right? Is there we were just talking about all the development that's happening on the train stops, right? So are you near those things? There's another, in Riverhead, there's a big opportunity zone happening in downtown. So if we're looking at something in that area, we may need to not just look at what that property is today, but what do we think is going to be available tomorrow? Or best way to make money in real estate is get in the way. So is there another project that's going to happen in there that maybe we can strategically buy this property to get in the way of something bigger later and make money that way? And then it's no secret we're running into an election cycle this year. So historically, election years, there's a little bit of volatility in the market. So we have interest rate volatility, we have election year volatility, we have a supply demand, seasonality came back. It's a wild time. So people ask me all the time, is it a good time to sell? If it is for your life, I don't really know. You can't time it. And there's so many different influences coming together at the same time that it's really tough to get a beat. So we do the best we possibly can. But big part to watch, and that's why every month I do a market update for my township, and I cover new listings every single month. There's 6 metrics I talk about every time, because new listings coming onto the market, especially compared month over month, tells us where supply is going. Did we see a big influx of properties come on? Because when there's more opportunity or more supply, there's more choice. Generally, that affects either, at the very least, it affects our marketing time, which equates to hold money, because generally we're financing these projects, or it also affects our price a little bit. So look at the number of homes that are coming on, and then the other one to watch is months of supply or days on market. So there's a little metric. If you have 6 months of supply in any market, that means it's balanced. So under 6 months means that the market is favoring the seller, and over 6 months means it's favoring the buyer. So that one I watch very clearly month over month, because I want to kind of see where that needle is falling. Really, it tells me who's in charge. But lately, it's been hovering for like Riverhead right in the middle, like 5.5 months, and that's when it gets a little wonky because the buyers have been waiting for their time for 5 years, and sellers are still holding on to yesteryear. And so when you have that like equilibrium, almost nobody's clearly in charge, and it can get a little contentious to get a deal across the finish line. So I haven't really had an easy deal in a long time. Everyone has a little bit of its own nuances on it.
And what's holding that back right now? Interest rates are controlling that, would you say, or not?
Well, yeah, yes, for sure. Like we're
limited on buyers right now because of the interest rate. And if interest rates were to fall by 1 whole point, all of a sudden you have another 1 million buyers on Long Island.
it would, yes.
The market,
absolutely.
like anything for sale, would be gone.
Yes, it'll
and then
drop.
you'd see probably a little bit of a value. Maybe more people put their houses on there, and that might flatten it out after the initial push.
Yes, and it's really tough because
Yeah.
it's a really good point. But so real estate is like a long lead cycle, right? Like when something happens in the market, right? Interest rates drop. It still takes like a couple months for people to get ready, right? Because how many times do I take a listing? I go, all right, you got to paint it, you got to clean it, declutter it. We got to fix this. Like it's not an easy process. It takes a little while to get there. So I think if interest rates dropped a point, it would be, for the seller. It would be good for the seller. I'll say that. Yeah. So seasonality, big part, right? So does any of these things happen, like time of year, weather, special events, holiday season? So here on the North Fork, we're definitely driven by seasonality, right? Like
Getting rid of our winters recently. No one's complaining about that.
That was like 60 degrees. I was very happy. Yeah. It's good stuff. But anyway, but seasonality is a big thing. And our season here has changed over, I would say, the last 5 to 8 years. Like seasonality used to be July, August. It was like the summer rush, right? Summer kids used to come out for July and August. They'd leave. But the changes in the way that we work, especially where we live, that season has been getting much longer and longer. And so really, like, September is still a big season, even October, then pumpkin picking, and like, it's crazy stuff. So pretty much from April till October, you can't make a left onto a main road.
Oh yeah, forget it. It's crazy.
Exactly. All right, growth and development. This is a big one. For us, Long Island, we're lucky because we're pretty insulated. So I was chatting with my real estate coach in my real estate world, and he was giving me some ideas on where to find business, and one of them was builder oversupply. And he's like, let's look at builder oversupply. But that doesn't exist here on Long Island because we're on an island, right? There's just very few 30 plus developments that are happening anymore. It's a couple of years maybe, but those big tracts of land are gone. But we're watching the travel patterns of people change. So the train is going to be a big part, and also big hubs of infrastructure moving back out. The way that we play, wineries and things like that, golfing is a big deal. So look for those big projects that are happening because usually there is a secondary benefit can happen. And also, I think, pay attention to your town board meetings, right? See what people are planning, right? What are they proposing?
Yeah, Riverhead Town is they're going through adjusting their master plan with development. So they're going to change that whole map.
The zoning map.
It's on the board now, and they're going through changes, and if you go on that website, they'll show you what their objectives are, what they plan to do, and they're having meetings and listening to guidance, but that will be modified.
Okay, so I would say, know the code. There's money in the code. It's like money in the math, know the code. It's super important. That's where you're going to find changes to zoning code always create serious opportunity for folks who know what they're looking for. Yep, political and economic factors. So election cycles, interest rate, direction of the stock market, and all this stuff gets a little wonky in election year. It goes back and forth all over the place. So, I think that will probably keep some people from throwing their house on the market. I think we're going to have a little bit more shorter inventory, especially because interest rates stayed so high. So
Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to get a dip midsummer,
Okay.
which we'll see what happens.
I hope so. I hope
Yeah.
so. So yeah, I think the Fed said they're not going to change anything for the first half of the year, but
Yeah.
hopefully, I hope we get something. I hope we get something. So important is always try to keep your pulse, your thumb on the pulse of the market and watch your numbers. The other part is, which is important, is speak to your other investors out there, because we're on like the front line, so we see what's happening. Talk to your realtors, make friends with people that are eating, breathing, and sleeping real estate, because real estate changes really on the ground, and it takes months for that change to be recorded in your data sources. So,
And then there's different styles of real estate investors. So there's some volume investors that are doing a majority of the flips. And for your outside investor to go, I want to get involved in doing flips. And if you looked at one of the guys that does the bulk of the flips, his profit margin per deal might not make sense unless you're doing them in volume.
that's right.
And then you have people like me that are doing one-off spec houses where I get a better profit margin in there by finding the right lot. There's more value for me there, but that's not as easy to do at the same time.
That's
And
right.
then for us right now, we're just looking to buy and keep property.
That's right.
So we're just trying to buy.
That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think definitely how you're gonna invest, plays into what is a deal for you. But so I think best thing is try not to get too excited about a deal. That's tough to do. We get excited. We like to buy property. We like to find deals, but you got to really buy with the numbers and not with the emotion. And big thing, we said it early on, you can't renovate your way out of a bad market, you can't renovate your way out of a bad area, and you can't renovate your way out of a bad buy.
Yeah.
So be
Yeah.
very,
And then for new investors, like really understanding like your costs, like
That's right.
you're buying the house for this, what you're going to sell it for. There's other costs in between there. Your real estate commission fees. There's a lot of money that isn't going to you in the end of that.
that's
So
right.
you go,
Yeah.
I'm going to buy it for this. I'm going to renovate. I'm going to sell it for that.
Right.
You still don't get all of that.
That's right. That's
So
right.
you have,
be
your
careful.
loan fees, you have your closing costs, you have transfer taxes, you have creation of LLCs, so that number keeps getting smaller and smaller.
That's right.
So you got to be pretty savvy to find the right deal.
That's right. So super important to buy. So we flashed our little example here. So this is the 70% of ARV, 70% of after repair value minus renovation equals our acquisition price. So let's just say it's a $100,000 house. 70% of $100,000 minus $10,000 renovation, $60,000 offer price. So it's a lot lower than you really think. You need to buy a lot smarter than you really think you do. Yeah. So another little metric that helped us if you're buying and hold is the 1% rule. This was a game changer for us. And so every morning, I'm a nerd, I'm scrolling for deals, everything that came on the market. We're primarily in a buy and hold position. So I'm looking at the 1% rule. And so the 1% rule, when I'm looking for a rental, I want that property to rent each month for 1% of the acquisition price. $500,000 purchase, I want it to rent for $5,000 a month. That's tough. The $5,000 a month rental is difficult because then we're getting into, why don't they just buy it? Right? We're getting into the buy range. So with the 1% rule. So, yep.
So you really have to be able to make those numbers work. We're trying to find stuff ultra cheap. Like a lot of our investments are around the $300,000 mark.
That's right.
And then we can do better than the 1% return.
That's right.
So
Tough to find something.
tough to find. They are out there, but
Sure. Another little, you'll hear this other acronym, net operating income. Super important, which is income minus expenses equals net operating income. So, we always look at rent is super high. Well, at the bottom of that, the little piece of pie that you actually get to keep is a lot smaller than you think. So here's an example, rent for $1,000, property management, remember these are out-of-state numbers, you only got $150 a month for taxes, never happens, repair, maintenance. So your $1,000 rent minus your $410 a month operating expenses equals $590 in cash flow. Boom. So I take that. If I paid $100,000 for it and I make $7,080 a year in annual income, I'm making a 7% return. Not terrible, right? And that doesn't include appreciation or depreciation. So remember, there's three magic elements to building wealth through real estate. This is just cash flow. Couple of books to nerd out on. Grab these. Real Estate by the Numbers. This is part of the Bigger Pocket Library. Good read. Keep it in your back pocket. Remember, knowing your numbers is the biggest way to protect your investment. So I hope that you enjoyed what we shared here. If you have any questions, you can hit us in the comments or check us out on meetup.com. But all this means nothing unless you go out and take massive action. See you next time.